Hi, I'm Douglas McGregor, CEO for Our Country, Our Choice. We have an important guest today. Her name is Katie Pasitny, and she has an interesting story to tell that I think is going to resonate strongly with Americans. Certainly resonated with me when I first heard about it. And I don't even think you need to be an animal lover to appreciate it, although I am. And so I'm always interested in whatever we can do to treat animals well and save them. And I think that's some of what Katie's going to talk about. Katie is in British Columbia in Canada, a cold place right now, but I think she's going to warm your hearts. And at the end, I'll ask her what actions we can take to support her, how we can help her. So with that, Katie, why don't you tell us your story up front?
Sure. Well, I want to thank you very much for the time today. I do believe that this is a story that we're going through that probably could resonate with a lot of people. Our farm is located an hour and a half east of Vernon, British Columbia, Canada. Our area and geographical location makes us pretty remote and quarantined almost all in its own. In 2020, give a small backstory on our farm and where we're at right now with this virus. And 2020, we had a virus come through our farm, and we were about a herd of 300 then, and we lost at 10 back in 2020. When we were recognizing the symptoms and we had deaths, we got our vet to do a tissue sample, which is a gold standard of samples. And that tissue sample came back positive right away for Pseudomonas bacteria. It's a very bad bacteria, and it can do a lot of damage and survive in the soil. So we started our own quarantine measures. We went through our own processes, and our herd got their herd immunity. We cleaned up every, buckets, and we were doing like I said, all of our own stuff. We got our herd immunity, never really thought much more of it. Speed up here till mid-December 2024. And we started recognizing that we had very, very similar symptoms that we had in 2020. Wasn't that alarming to us, knowing that we had a pretty good idea of what it was. So we started our own quarantining procedures, cleaning our buckets, cleaning our waters, treating our animals. But we had an anonymous call came into CFIA, which is Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So they contacted us and said, with an anonymous tip, that they're sure that we have avian influenza on our farm. Mm-hmm. And we went through the symptoms, we went through the issues that we were having, and we said that a whole bunch were getting sick, but then a whole bunch had gotten better. And CFIA said at that time, no, these symptoms don't sound like avian H5N1 bird flu. These ones, they just don't match. And then if you did have H5N1, you're like a commercial poultry farm, which we're not. A whole 20 to 30,000 would be dead in 36 hours. So they asked if they could come and do a test on a couple ostrich. We said, absolutely. No problem. We invited them in. They asked to have 2 deceased animals to take the tests on, which now looking back is a little alarming. So they came in, and on the 29th, the 30th, they came and did this. They took 2 PCR tests of 2 of our ostriches. They did a oral swab and a rectal swab of our ostriches. They left with that sample. They came back to us the next day on the 31st by about 2:00 in the afternoon, and they let us know that we had H5N1 and our farm was set to be destroyed. So painting a picture too of our ostriches is, we really need to highlight the fact that we are flightless. We're a flightless animal. We are stationary in the middle of nowhere. At the same time, a really critical piece of information is that when we did the PCR test, we asked them, CFIA, to test any of our healthy animals, to test any of the animals that had been symptomatic, and they denied our request. They said that's not possible. So we, speeding up again, we found out later on here by our lawyer, looking through paperwork, that on the 31st, 41 minutes after they found out that result of H5N1, her name is Courtney Forthingham for Canadian Food and Inspection Agency. She already signed the order that our farm was to be depopulated, murdered, and culled. So kind of a funny coincidence, because then on January 2nd, they put us through a 5.5 hour Zoom call with all top officials and vets. And they wanted us to expose our business plan. They wanted us to expose any scientific work that we have been working on to do with antibodies. They wanted us to expose all of our research material and literature, which they were extremely interested in, and acted like this was going to help save our animals. At about the 5-hour mark, my mom, Karen Esperson, said, "Are you just probing us for information and you've already decided that you're killing our animals?" And they said, no, we're really interested in what you guys are working on. And so a backstory on our farm is about 3 years ago, we transitioned our farm into a scientific living laboratory. So we partnered with a gentleman, Dr. Tsukamoto, out of Kyoto, Japan, Dr. Stu Greenberg out of Boston, United States, and we formed Struthio Bioscience, a company really focusing on the natural immunity and the strong, robust antibodies of an ostrich. At that time, so we have scientific studies that we actually can have the antibodies that can help neutralize the COVID-19 virus. And the reason it can do it is the antigen was built universally to neutralize and go beyond the crown, and universally it could treat any variant. So at that time, this was about 2.5, 3 years ago now, we reached out to the government with our antibody program and reaching out to them for help, saying, hey, we have something that the government that could help humanity and how we treat viruses in the future. Now, looking back at this, I mean, it's kind of put one of the biggest targets on our back. Because they will not, they still want us eradicated. They want all of our healthy ostriches. We did lose some. We lost 69 ostriches in total on our farm. But interesting fact is that any of the ostriches that were exposed to that Pseudomonas bacteria in 2020, not one of our older ostriches have died or gotten sick. Not one of them have had even skipped a beat. So whatever they were exposed to back in 2020, they gained a herd immunity. And our younger ostriches here now that have been on our farm from 2020 after, these are the ones that were susceptible to whatever happened, came through our farm this time. So we are at herd immunity again. All of our animals were at, I think, 33 days with no symptoms, no deaths. Everybody's happy and healthy. And they are, Canadian Food Inspection Agency is just saying, absolutely no, we are to be, all of them are still to be killed. But during their visits on our farm, they have outright asked us, where do we store our COVID-19 antibodies? They've asked us where we store our research. They've let us know that when they come in and they kill our animals, they are allowed to go through our private residence, and they will take anything, they said, and any byproduct of the animals that we have on the farm, and they will destroy it. And so we said, so even our 35-year-old ostrich painted eggs that people have painted for us, and they said everything. They said even our laptops, like our laptops can be destroyed. So I don't know how that, how the virus lives in our laptop, but we are hanging on by a thread. Sorry, it makes me emotional. I've been trying to get my emotions in check. It's been a very long road. It's been a big journey because we just, we're fighting the government and we're letting them know, no, we're not killing them. We hold a key into treating disease and viruses. And if they don't want to see, even just take interest in how we could help humanity, then there's a bigger story happening here. They have a stamping out policy, which the stamping out policy works in hand with the World Health Animal Organization, which is also governed by the WHO, which is also ran by the UN. And they keep coming back to us saying that if we want to keep our H5N1 free status in Canada. So that is why we have a stamping out policy, which means we need to eradicate our farms. So which again, if you think about this with any logic, I'm sure you have a lot of it, is so the stamping out policy is you're going farm to farm to eradicate animals that could need their natural immunity. Without natural immunity, we are at risk of humanity, of survival, human survival. And as long as there's migratory birds in the world, which is another thing that I asked CFIA, I said, what are you going to do with the 300 to 500 mallard ducks that landed in our pens, ostrich pens, that we're pretty sure brought whatever virus it was, because it was soon after that they took house in our pens that we had sick animals. And they looked at us and chuckled and said, that's wildlife. What are you going to do? Kill all wildlife in the world? That's insane. So I said, then how are you saving the world by killing our 380 now ostriches? And how is that going to make an impact? It's not, as long as we have migratory birds in the world, there will be nowhere in the world that is H5N1 free. So get rid of the status, get rid of this, and let's start helping our farmers, helping our food, protecting humanity. Let's stop the mass cullings. It's not working. And let's turn to a farm like ours that has something that's, where we have the ability to help, and we have antibodies. So we are not at the beginning stages of this science. We're at the stages of it to be used. We have proof that it works. We have stockpiles of H5N1 antibodies that have been offered from the chairman, Dr. Tsukamoto in Japan. And the Canadian government will not even recognize that. They won't address it. They won't even, they will not take that into account. So,
a quick question: to what do you attribute this, what seems an irrational policy, given what you've described? What do you attribute this irrational position to on the part of the Canadian government? Why are they being so rigid and inflexible on this point?
I would say that there's a bigger agenda here, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything, but the dots all connect to, we put our antibodies put a wrench in their plans. How do you explain that our animals are surviving and they're healthy and they're doing well, and none of us on the farm have gotten sick from our animals? And everybody up close, like, there's been no risk when they're trying to push the next vaccination with Big Pharma, and they're trying to, Moderna got $590 million for the next bird flu vaccination.
You think the government is then acting in the interests of Big Pharma, and that's one of the reasons they want to eradicate not just your animals, but also the research that you've got on hand? Absolutely.
And I think that going around the world, all over the USA, we're having the massive decline in our protein of just chicken eggs, and our, the health, like we are at risk of losing so much here, but we're also at risk of the natural immunity needs to scare people. If we're going to eradicate all natural immunity, you're going to have very, very naive animals, weak to mutating viruses. That is what is going to happen. We're not just protecting the world from H5N1. It's a bigger issue.
Tell us a minute, where do the ostriches fit into your business? What is the business model that keeps you afloat that involves the ostriches? In other words, what are you doing with them, whatever they create?
So the business model has just been in the last 3.5 years of research. So right now we are literally a living laboratory of long-standing genetics that we will not be able to replace. These animals are 34, 35 years old. Some of them are straight from Zimbabwe. So it's been our business model's been antibodies. How can we use this? We actually, Dr. Tsukamoto worked with the U.S. Army years ago to provide a candy that had antibiotic candy.
Right.
So it's I don't know. So there was a lot of stuff knowing that working with these animals, they're a golden animal that can offer a lot to how we study medicine and science.
There's no one else, no other agency within the framework of the Canadian government to whom you can appeal?
So we right now had went to a judge, gave us the right to a judicial review. Justice Batista, he was then challenged by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, saying that he erred in law, erred in principle, and he overstepped his jurisdiction. So today we just got another his answer, because he said he would come back with a written answer. And because Canadian Food Inspection Agency wanted clarification that us getting that judicial review, it relieved us from having to kill our own animals and dispose of them in our hayfield, which is absurd, and gave them still the authority that they're allowed to come in and kill them themselves. So today the judge came back and said, no, these animals are protected until a judicial review. But because he didn't say that they could be culled, but he did honor that this should be an expedited hearing for the protection of the public risk, if there is any. But where we're a little bit concerned is, I think he's relieving himself of this, and he's allowing a chief management to put together a judge that is Canadian Food Inspection Agency appointed. So somebody that basically they trust. And so that is a worry for us, because then they're saying that the minister of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has more authority than our federal government here. And they can come in and do whatever they want when they want. It doesn't matter what their rulings are, or expert opinions.
Yeah. Now, other than the Prime Minister, does the Governor General have any authority? Is he an authority to whom you could appeal?
I don't know. Right now we're working through with our lawyer to see where we go in higher rankings from the minister, where we get heard. And we have a team of scientists, immunologists, epidemiologists that have proof to say we can prove to you these animals pose no risk. And they will not let that be heard. They're refusing to hear that.
Well, most governor generals in former colonies that are now, dominions or provinces or states, tend to stay under the radar. But the Governor General in Canada, I know, does have substantial authority.
Okay.
And I would urge that you consider that an appellate authority. And you never know what the response will be. And just a few years ago, I say just a few, it's probably longer than that now. As you get older, what you think happened a few years ago happened 20. We had the problem with beef cattle, and everybody was convinced that mad cow disease was everywhere. And in Great Britain, it became another obsession. And in Scotland, they had this lady who lived in the lowlands, and she had 5 or 6 sheep, I think, of which they eventually only had 3 or 4. And these sheep were more than just farm animals. They were her pets. And there was no evidence that they were afflicted with mad cow disease. And the government in Edinburgh absolutely insisted they have to be killed. It was a national event. And it was one of these things where she was almost a hostage in her own home, surrounded by authorities. And there was great reluctance to go in there, push her out of the way, kill her sheep. It got national attention. It went on and on and on. Eventually, she gave in, and her pets were slaughtered. And again, there was no evidence for mad cow disease. I don't know if that helps you, but it did have an impact in Britain. And it wasn't long after that the mad cow disease phobia went away. In fact, they had big steak dinners up in Scotland. Everyone was eating beef to prove that it was not what they thought. I mean, these things happen. And of course, President Trump wisely walked away from the World Health Organization. They're a catastrophe, and we have no use for them. But I know that Canada has bent over backwards for the globalist community to essentially subordinate itself to all of this, all these crazy ideas. But there has to be someone who is at least marginally rational to whom you can appeal. And if there's no other choice in the government, I wouldn't give up until I'd gotten a hearing with the Governor General, because he has substantial authority if he wants to use it. And this strikes me as a case. I mean, you're isolated. The probability of you spreading this anywhere is slim to none.
It is.
And if they admit that wild mallard ducks could be the culprits, and you found a way to create herd immunity, which should be welcomed as good news, and you had support from people in the research community, scientists that are trying to follow up and profit from what you're doing. Now, do you have any other animals besides ostriches? I see you have some Highland cattle on the wall behind you.
No, we're just ostriches at the farm. Yeah, no, I love Highland cows, and I personally have Highland cow. I have 3 at my little house in Kelowna, British Columbia, but at our family farm is just ostriches. And
they're surprising. The Highland cattle are surprisingly charming for Scottish animals. Most Scottish things are not charming, but they are. Well, now tell us, I'm sure a lot of Americans that are going to listen to this are going to ask the question, how can we help this person? Because what's happening where you are could conceivably visit us at some point. What we saw after President Trump left office was a tremendous effort to reverse everything and fully drag us into the globalist camp where we did not want to go. Mm-hmm. And Trump is going to be here for 4 years, we hope. God forbid anything happens to him, but we need to be prepared for these kinds of brief periods of insanity. So tell us what we can do as Americans. How can we help you? Can we send you money to defray the cost, legal costs? Just tell us.
We have SaveOurOstriches.com has been set up by an amazing organization. We have teams working everywhere trying to gain awareness about our situation so that we can help protect the world from the fear mongering of the H5N1, allow our science to come forward and whatnot. So SaveOurOstriches.com, you can follow us, all of our media, our information, where we're at with our court proceedings, as well as you can donate money. We are in a massive legal battle and we're not going to back down. We don't know how far that's going to go, but we do know that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's goal, I think, is to break people like us and just wear us down to where we can't fight anymore or kill our animals, and then we have nothing in the long run. But we want to make policy change. So donations, please go to SaveOurOstriches.com. You can write letters there to our government. From there, you can, there's email links and drafted letters that you can put your name on and send it to the proper authorities. Media and awareness across the world. We keep saying that the world is watching, and the world needs to watch this, because if this mistake is allowed to happen here, then there's going to be another mistake and another mistake and another mistake. So we don't want to kill our science. We want to protect our science, which will protect your farms. It's going to protect your animals. It could protect your wife, your daughter, your son, your grandparents. This is something that we're saying, give us a chance to help. So yeah, you can go to SaveOurOstriches.com. And then it also has a link to all of our Facebook, Twitter, all of those accounts. So if you want to stay updated with really sweet videos of our healthy animals and have a look yourself to see what they look like right now, you can go there. And awareness.
Yeah, I think that will help a lot if people can see these animals.
Yeah,
they'll appreciate that enormously. Well, Katie, thank you. We will make sure when this is broadcast that we'll have a banner that will run along at the bottom that will direct them to the website. And help you as much as we possibly can. God bless you for what you're doing, because you're acting for more than just the people in British Columbia. You're acting on behalf of us as well. We really appreciate it. Good luck. And we need to find out in the future what happens. So keep us informed. We'd like to have you come back and tell us how this story ends, hopefully positively.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the time and your audience. And thank you for listening.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.